Alright, you can see I got my template board in here, and I've taken blue tape and used it to make these corners so I can get the correct profile out of all of these corners and edges through here. And then I'll take this inside, trace this onto another sheet, and that'll give me my edge profile that I can route out on the actual plywood. I've got my board from the van laid out on this new sacrificial piece, and then this will be the one that I actually cut out and then use as my template for routing out the plywood. So we'll trace this guy. Now I can cut this one out and it'll become my router template. Alright, now that we got this all cut, let's see how our template fits. That's it right there. That is a pretty good fit. Still not quite sure what we're going to do with this plastic piece here, if we're going to bring it right up there, but for now it's riding that really well. Comes around the wheel well. Yeah, everything fits pretty darn well. Okay, now we can use this piece to be our new template that'll go on a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and that'll be our test piece that we'll use for our fitting before we go to some actual nice plywood. I got my template lines traced out on my board, as you can see. And then I've also come through and you can see all these square lines. That's because all of this in here is going to be waste. I'm going to be cutting it out. But that's a lot of plywood, so I'd like to cut it up into usable pieces. So I'm going to run all these straight lines with my circular saw guide and try to get as much of this scrap wood as usable scrap wood as we can. Several square pieces of wood, which is good. And so now we'll just take the jigsaw and rough cut all of our lines, and then we'll come through with the router and finish it off using the template. There we go. We've got our nice profiled edge into the plywood. Everything's super clean except for that right there. Oh well, that's why this is the test piece. There we go. We'll get this into the van, see how it fits. Looks pretty good. All right, what I think we're gonna do, free up here. And it's all looking good so far. I think to seam this to the next piece, you can see I initially meant to be here, but I'm in one of the grooves instead. So I think what I'll do is go to the next groove over, and instead of splitting it and just having a butt joint right here, I think I'm going to do a half lap joint. So I'll route part of this one, about half of this sheet out, I'll route half of the other sheet out, and they'll actually overlap. And then I can screw that piece that overlaps down onto one of these ridges. I think that'll be the plan. But there's the first one. Right, here's that plastic threshold piece that was in the van originally. You can see I used the holes that were already in there with the screws and put those into place. And then drilled a big hole in my plywood down here to kind of figure out where that screw is located. So now I should be in about the right spot, and I can just take this and trace it, and I should have the correct profile to give me the spacing for the door latches. And then when we get the other piece in here, we'll do the same for this side here. I've taken some more wiring out, and this is all accessory wiring that was for some cup holder lights and rope lights, all of which were killing. So trying to declutter stuff, got all those out. All that's left are speaker wires and then a couple wires for some accessory lighting over here, the mirror image on this side. And right now, you can see I got all the chairs out. We're trying to trace this cluster of wires that goes underneath the carpet. Right here, and it comes all the way up to under the front seat. So I've pulled the carpet back, which it's a little bit of work, but it's not too bad. It's worth it to expose these wires. I know that I don't need any of these here, so all of those can come out. And what I want to see is if I can reroute these wires maybe to this side of this pocket here, because these are riding right on top of a ridge and my plywood is going to sit there. So if I could bring these over to this side into that pocket, I think that is going to set me much better off. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Whole mess of wires and carpet glue, and it's never ending. But we're getting there. There we go. We got all these routed in that little pocket. So now our ridge here is free. That plywood will be able to come in here. I'll still have to deal with this, but at least I won't have to deal with that. So it comes in. I'm not quite sure what all these wires do. They go under the carpet and then back that way and that way. So I don't really need to know though. That's fine. They're out of the way. And we'll try to tackle some of this too. all the measurements and got the initial cut, and I've already tried it in here about twice, so this should fit pretty well this time. Yep. Yeah. So this will be my template for the other half, not quite half, but the other piece of the plywood that'll make up the floor. What I will have to do is figure out mounting holes in the base. So you can see I got two here from the old rear seat that was in here. I would like one towards the rear and one towards the front over there. And then these two pieces, this piece and the new one, will kind of overlap. They'll do a half lap, and I'll be able to put screws straight down into the ridge that'll be directly below the two of those. So that'll secure this edge. So I'm also going to need some anchor points towards the front, and again one towards the rear, pretty much mirror image of this one on this side as well. So I think once I get the plywood cut and fit in here, that'll be the next step. All right, the second piece is in, and it fits along there pretty darn well. So now I've got to cut my half lap. You can see the overlap there. That's how much it'll overlap. I'll cut half out of one piece, half out of another piece, and they should sandwich together. And then I got to get the profile cut into this side too. This is an issue here. I got to figure out how to make the transition all the way from up here to all the way down here. This is the original piece, and I don't want the plywood just sitting on that. That doesn't look all that great. So I'm thinking I might do one big end cap out of some actual wood instead of plywood, and somehow make that transition. So that'll be for the future. For now, I just want to be able to get the plywood in there and shut the doors, and I can work on that at a later point. All right, we got everything set with the base. We put in some extra holes, had to go under the car and make sure that we've got clearance to actually put bolts through, that we weren't hitting like the gas tank or the muffler or anything. Got this half lap done. Okay, it's not great, but this is still just the test piece. I think on the final one, I'm actually gonna move the half lap over to the other side of these holes. I have a wider ridge that I'll be able to screw into. And then these bolts will be in this side, which will kind of split that more in half. And the floor will cover up the seam, the vinyl floor that I'm going to put on top. But we're good. Now that we got this floor in, I can start planning out the actual bench that'll go on this side and the drawers that'll go on that side. Thanks for watching.